Good morning. It's Tuesday, and that means Writer's Chat. So here we are to bring you another episode. My name is Johnny Alexander. I am joined by my co-host, Norma Poor and Brandy Bro. We're doing things a little bit different this time. We have a guest and a guest host, which I'm not sure we've ever had a guest host before. So first of all, I'm going to give the official introduction for our amazing guest, Charles Hack. So let me tell you about Charles. He's the author of the Space Warfare Group, Sci-Fi Space Opera books, and the Hank Lynn Mysteries. After writing for over 20 years, his first published novel is Into the Darkness. He studied electrical engineering in college and is still a licensed professional engineer with over 20 years of experience before he retired and entered full-time Christian ministry. He currently serves as a pastor in his hometown and has a master's degree in systematic theology. Writing is one of his passions, along with reading, woodworking, and coffee. Charles is married with two children and two noisy dogs. They live on a small ranch known as the Ranchini in the Great Basin of northern Nevada. And I understand that's near Reno because you said you live there, right?
That's right. Yeah, we're technically in the Reno area. It's just north of the city.
Okay. Well, I love that Ranchini.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so now our guest host isn't really a stranger to many of you. She's my daughter, Jill Lancour. Jill has been with us before, and usually when she has done episodes for us, she's talked about Instagram and about how important that is. And if you have followed Jill's Instagram journey, because you will know that she builds a following and then she goes, I'm done with that, and then she starts something else and builds another following. And I'm
I
I'm,
have
I'm
no,
done with that.
I have no comments on Jill's introduction.
So she wants to talk to us a few moments about Instagram, and then she's going to do the interview with Charles because she's a big fan. Go for it.
Hi, guys. Thank you again for having me on Writers Chat. I always love being here with you all. Yes, so in the past, when I've done the show, it's been on Instagram or social media of some sort. And like my mom so wonderfully and graciously put it, I do go up and down with Instagram. But for you all, it's different because you're authors and you're writers and you're building this platform for your readers. You have stake in the game. You have people who are buying your books, unlike me, who's just on there for whatever, fill in the blank. So it's important, as I've told you guys in the past, you guys have to be on social media. And I know some of you really don't want to be, but that's where your readers are going to go find you. And I promise this is going to segue into Charles's interview. Because that's where I met Charles. He has these book series, and I was doing Bookstagram, and this is the first one I read. This is his Hank Lynn series, the book one, because book two is coming out, correct?
Yeah.
And so when you find an author and you like their book, your readers, if they're like me, and most of them are, they're immediately going to go search for you on social media. And I cannot tell you how many times I've gone on to find an author and there's nothing there, or they haven't posted in a while. And it breaks my heart because I want to connect. And we have this beautiful thing right now in our time where you can actually become friends with your favorite authors. And as a reader, that is the coolest thing on the planet. It really, really is. So I gently remind all of you as authors, be on Instagram, be on social media, connect with your authors or your readers and be available to them to talk about things. Because we're going to talk all about Charles's amazing ability to write in two different genres. And if I had never read this one and I hadn't been able to connect with him on Instagram, I would have never, ever picked up his sci-fi series because I've never read sci-fi, but I did because I trusted him here. And I read and got all of his books, and I will read anything he writes because he's active on Instagram. I trust him as an author. I know what I'm getting when I pick up his books. And you all can have that too. I hope you do have that too already. But if not, that's something to work on. So, enough with Instagram. Charles. Okay,
Right.
so let's just get it out of the way. His name is Keller, right? Like, so first off, just explain how you got into writing. I just wanted to put that out there because if I call him Keller and you're like, I thought his name was Charles, I
Yeah.
don't want you to be confused.
Well, technically, my name is Keller Charles, so it's
That
both.
works.
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah, you can call me Keller. Just real quick, I did pen name Charles Hack in order to separate the fiction writing a little bit from my ministry. So if
Mm-hmm.
somebody's looking for my sci-fi book and they land on my church with sermons, they might be confused, like what am I doing? So it was a decision to just provide some separation, but it's not a secret. At least it's not anymore. Just
Okay, good. I didn't just reveal something.
yeah. Anyway, sorry, I got distracted. What was the
No, well, yeah, so let's just start off
okay.
with why don't you tell everybody like how you got into writing? I know my mom said you've been writing for 20 years.
Yeah.
But why don't you just start with the how you got into it?
Yeah, that means I'm older than I left. Got into that one. So I got into writing because I was a reader, am a reader. I started reading thriller books, adventure books in high school because my dad was a reader, and he would travel like on the airplane or whatever and read, and I just got into it. So I was a reader all the way into high school or through high school and into college. And there got to be a point where if you're a big reader, you have this desire to start to tell stories. You're like, I could do this, or I could do this better, or something like that. And so I was having that experience, and I don't remember the exact reason why I initially started, but I did start writing short stories and working on writing. And when my daughter was born, she's now 22 years old. So I had this routine of getting up early in the morning, and we had this little closet office, a little cloffice in the hallway of our tiny little house. A cloffice, yeah, and it was, in our tiny little house, newly married couple, and I would sit like 4 a.m. and I would sit and work on stories, and then I,
Yeah.
get cleaned up and go to work and work as an engineer and whatever, and it just started that way, and I wrote a bunch of short stories, and it became a habit and a hobby and a joy of mine. I often say, and many of you, that the writers in the chat will agree that writing is very often even better than reading as you discover your own story and characters and experience that. It's like I would rather sit and write all day than read all day because it's like reading on steroids.
Aw, see, and I can't relate to that at all because I'm not the writer in the room. So, okay, so that's awesome. So tell everybody how you chose these two genres to write in and excel in. If you guys have to get his books. I'm sure I'm going to say that a billion times, but
Yeah, well, okay, so I always wanted to be a what I would call like a political thriller writer and a mystery writer. So right here above my shoulder is one of the first books by Vince Flynn, and he writes political thrillers. CIA, the president, Secret Service, all that terrorism stuff like that. And that was my passion. That was what I wanted to do. And I was also heavily influenced by mystery. I had a couple mystery novels that I had not finished that were just sort of like dead on my computer. And I was working on this political thriller, and I love the story. I love the characters. I should say I love the characters and the premise. I did not love the story. I didn't know where I was going. I was about a third of the way, or maybe even as far as halfway into the book, and I had no point. I had no idea what I was doing, where I was going, how to get there, and I was getting frustrated. And part of the story had this flashback to the military in the Middle East when my main character was in the army, and there was this character there. who was the major in the flashback, and his name was he was Major Malcolm Lambert, and he was the side character in the flashback of this book I was working on. And I was frustrated, and I was doing so much research and trying to really learn how to publish um, while I was writing, and in all my research of publishing and success, turning it into a business, a lot of people were talking at the time, probably still are, about writing to market, figuring out what markets are successful, what markets are hungry, to not necessarily write your passion, but write a story and series in a hungry market. And so as I was sitting around thinking, I was like, I don't know what I'm doing anyway. Maybe this, maybe what I'll do is put this character that I had in space and make it in the far future. I love Star Wars and Star Trek, and that's a hot market. So maybe I'll just convert it, and I'll just take the side character and put him up there. Maybe I'll take the whole thing and make it sci-fi. Like I just started doing this thing of trying to get out of the hole of I don't know what I'm writing right now, and I don't really like what I'm writing. And so that's what I did is I started kind of turned it what I was working on into this space version. So it was very much political thriller in space what was developing. That's why they call these books. This is the new cover. Jill has the original cover. They call people call these books a crossover between Star Wars and Tom Clancy because it has the Star Wars elements and the like political government military thriller aspects. And so in that I was working on it and I didn't like the story again because that's a theme in my life. And I decided, well, you know what I need to do is I need to write a novella to introduce this Mac Lambert character because it's not making any sense. I still got this other character I want to do in this story, but I'm going to write a novella. And that is going to introduce these space characters in this world and just kind of mess around with it and just have a starting point. That turned into the darkness. It was a 130 some thousand word full novel. And so what I say is, like people ask, like, why do you write in sci-fi? I say, well, it happened accidentally, to be honest. I was writing in this genre, and I sort of just wrote a sci-fi book, and it went great. I mean, I was really happy with it. It was the first story that I was able to actually complete and like, and was excited about what happens next. And so that's how I ended up in the sci-fi realm. That's where I my first book was published in. Yeah.
And then so when you're doing so much with the sci-fi, because you're writing these books simultaneously,
Yeah.
so how did you then decide to do the Hank Glenn mystery series? I was going to keep holding them up so people can understand. Look at the difference. He's so
Yeah.
talented.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it is. They're stark. So one of my biggest influences ever as an author is an author named Michael Conley, and he writes a series called the Harry Bosch novels. And he does it's just LA homicide detective, and he writes these police procedurals. And I've read every one of them and all of his spin-off series. I've watched all the TV show episodes. He also wrote The Lincoln Lawyer, if you're familiar with that, on Amazon. He's incredible. He was a big influence on me early, and so I always had this desire to write mystery. Mystery is smaller in the world. The like political thrillers get a little out of control. Sometimes they get big because maybe you're in the Middle East, maybe you're in Russia, you've got these things moving around. It's complex and it's hard to write and this is worse because I have to make up a universe and do world building. So mystery had this appealing element of small community, a few characters, and then you can write. It's the total opposite of what I was doing with the space warfare group, which is this massive sprawling sort of world building, and that just was lingering because I still want to go back to my political thriller that I was writing before and work on that series someday. But I thought, you know what? I think Lake Tahoe, which is about 45 minutes from my house, is an amazing setting for anything. Um, and people know Lake Tahoe and they can look on Google and be amazed by the location. So setting, amazing. Um, and the idea of there is an author, local author who writes mysteries at Lake Tahoe. They're different. He's got like 20 books out, and so they're in all the local bookstores and stuff. But I wanted to do something different that was more small town sheriff feel, but keep it small and make it about the community and make it about like a plan of like I want to write 20 books in this series and to start developing that. That developed maybe out of a desire to write in a different way, possibly. I can't even really answer that question, but that's how it happened.
So with your writing process, like, do you ever come like when you get up in the morning and you write or whenever you're writing, do you write like the Hank Glenn series in one morning and then Space Warfare Group in another morning, or do you sometimes do it both? And if you do it, tackle both worlds in one morning, do you have to like switch something on and off because you're jumping to through genres?
Yeah, that's an interesting question. So the short answer to that is absolutely not. What I do is I one project at a time, and I immerse myself. I think can we talk a little bit about that switching on and off process here with
Yes.
that question? Because I think this is maybe it'll be different for everybody. This is how I do it. So um, I am working on a project, and I know what that project's going to be once I finish this project, I know what the next one's going to be. So I don't do two books at one time. It's
Okay.
always one book. But I start early in the process of finishing the previous project. I start changing what I'm listening to. I start changing what I'm reading. I start changing what I'm watching to immerse myself into the other genre in order to sort of like fill my mind with that genre. So, for example, when I was working on book three of the Space Warfare Group, and I knew I was coming, the next Hank book was coming, I was like, when I drive to work, I'd be thinking about the story I'm writing and the next scene. But then maybe on the way home, I'm like daydreaming about like, oh, what's going to happen with Hank and this, and starting to daydream. But then I'm starting to listen to different music. I'm starting to watch, we're watching mysteries a lot on TV. I've converted totally over to all mystery novels and mystery audiobooks and things. And I'm just like immersing myself in that creative thing of the mystery novels. Finish book, finish Space Warfare Group. When I start the Hank book, I always write to music because I don't like silence. So I'm writing to music. It helps my mind and the energy of sticking with it, the typing speed. Um, so I'm listening to. I have playlists for both series that are vastly different. So um, the Space Warfare Group, it's all like electronic, instrumental, cinematic, battle music, and even like um, I don't know how you describe it. It's just big and loud and fast, and it's like an action scene all day. But then when I go over to Hank, I listen to like tons of old country music, and um, you know, I'm literally listening to like Hank Williams and Johnny Cash and things like that. Uh,
Mhm.
that end up it just kind of changes the vibe and the mood, and it helps to enter that world with all that. And so what I've been doing is so I wrote three Space Warfare groups, then I wrote Hank, then I wrote Space Warfare Group 3 with the full size number 3, and then I wrote Hank 2, and then now I'm working on Hank 3. So we could talk about why. The thought was back and forth, but I've made a business decision to write Hank 3 now, before I get back to Space Warfare Group Book 4.
Seeing as your reader, I'm like, why? Wait,
Yeah,
like I need the fourth book. Okay,
yeah,
So
yeah,
Jill, hold on a second, but let's talk about that business decision because
yeah.
that I mean that does play into it. And I've got this very long, big project I want to do that's like 10 books, but it's like, yeah, how do I fit that in? And when do you do that? It's like it does come down sometimes to what is best for your overall indie business? Like, what are you working on? So, yeah, just can we just talk about that a
Yeah.
moment?
And I think it's going to be uh, each author with their business decisions and
Hmm.
their writing decisions. I start with this discussion is, are you writing for passion or are you writing for business? Are you trying to build side income? Are you trying to like be a full-time author, which I don't know who does that anymore. But I know there's some out there. So if it's a business decision, then what I found was having three, and I'll hold them up. So having three full-size books like this with great matching covers,
Hmm.
and they're branded and themed and really eye-catching. It Three seems to be the number where
Yeah.
the ads work, the readers start to latch on. I'm not Jill talked about like social media and stuff, and I have a love-hate relationship with social media.
We all
I'm
do.
Yeah, and I'm not on TikTok. I'm not doing what some of the other people doing that are having more success than me with social media. But the three books with the ad seems to be the thing that gives it some life so that I can actually work on the other project. And it took getting three full-size books and seeing how that works uh,
Hmm.
with the flow of so I'm in Kindle Unlimited, which
Hmm.
again is a business decision, and I'm getting a lot of page reads every day,
Good,
whole series,
good.
seeing read through where like last week everybody was reading book one, thousands
Hmm.
of pages there. And then the next week I noticed today they're reading book two. And I'm like, oh,
Great.
that's fantastic. There's read through going on. They just need to leave reviews.
Yes.
So three books seems to have its own momentum now with that. So Hank, I've got one. It's hard to
Hmm.
sell one book,
It
especially
is.
calling it a series. And they're like, "Oh, great! Where are the other books?" And like, they're
Hmm.
coming, they're coming. Book two, which this cover, I'm just so happy with this
Oh,
cover.
cool.
It is,
Yeah.
So
it is,
good.
Melissa.
yeah, I just love it. So happy with it. Book two comes out next week, and then I
Oh,
want book
great.
three out. I would love to have book three out by like March or April or something, and
Yeah.
then I can let Hank get momentum and do his thing, focus on those ads, let it build. I think three is really appealing to a reader, these big readers, and then I can work on Space Warfare Group book four, which is going to be a lot of work. So
Yeah.
that's the business decision. It's driven on locking in the readership to that genre, so they're not just like, well, that was great, but I'll never remember who that person was or that book, or 10 years from now they're like, oh, I think I remember reading something about it. No, I want them asking for the next book. And I think you need at least three to do that.
Mom, do you have another question about that?
Not necessarily a question, just a couple comments. I know that like friends of mine who do book bub ads. Sorry, it took me a moment to get that right. Um, will say that lots of time they usually almost always make their money back from doing the ad, but it's often because readers have gone on to read not just the free book, but the second and third and fourth. I mean, it's really no need to do a free book, to do an ad for a free book because you're not going to get anything unless you get page reads, like you said. But so that does make it really important to have those other books for them to go on and read. And then the other thing is, people are a little bit now gun shy about buying the first book in a series because so many times, and yes, I did this too, not by my choice, but by God's. Blame God. Um, I wrote a book thinking it would be the first book in a series, and then I got contracts to write other books, so I never got around to writing the second book. So, it's like they sometimes won't read the first book in a series unless there's at least like a second one there so that they
Yeah.
know the author is writing these books because they've been burned by writers like me who have written just the first book and never
Yeah.
continue. Yeah,
Yeah.
so it can be an
And
issue too.
both series. So one of the most popular things out there, especially in the sci-fi fantasy
Mhm.
realm, is trilogies. People write
Yeah.
trilogies and they walk away and they never revisit them. Um, I don't want to do that. What I want to do is I'm targeting readers who want to read 10 to 20 books in a series. And
Oh, wow.
some of the guys that again are like influences on me for the Hank books are if you've ever heard of CJ Box and the Joe Pickett novel.
Yes. I've read
Yeah.
all of the JP, I've read all the
Oh,
Joe Pickett books.
okay. So Joe Pick if you like Joe Pickett, this is in the Pickett
Here you
vibe.
go, Mom. I'll bring it to you.
Yeah. Yeah, what are you doing? You've missed out. So Joe
Oh my,
Pickett, along with that Longmire, which has the
yes.
TV show, but the books
Yeah.
they're different books because they're very worldly, but than mine. But that series has like 20 books in it, and then Joanna Brady, which is J.A. Jance, she writes about a small town sheriff in Arizona, a woman sheriff in Arizona, and it's the same thing like Joe Pickett, but it's a female sheriff, and those series have 20, 25 books in them, and people read
Yeah.
them. They read all of them. They read all of
Yeah.
them, even ones that they're not very good. Like there's several Joe Pickett's that I've read probably 15 of them or something. And there's a handful that are like, well, that's okay. I mean, it's not great, but what I can't wait for the next one
I
because I
know.
love Joe and I love his wife and I love the side characters. You know,
There's
Nate.
almost 30 of those books now, and
Oh
he's
man,
just a great storyteller. I'm sorry this is on the recording, but he'll never hear it. There's editing issues. There are because it's always going Joe thought, and I'm always going Joe thought. So
oh,
we could just
hey,
scratch that out.
men write differently.
That is true. That is true. But
That's why
anyway,
I have a
yeah, I love
female
the book.
editor. I have a female editor who's super helpful. She this last round, she was like, "There's not enough of Sierra's romantic thoughts about what's going on," and I was like, "Who needs to know that?" Yeah. Right, right. I'm learning. I'm learning.
Oh, gracious.
I have a
Okay.
question from the chat. How do you pick between KDP, Kindle Unlimited, or Instagram Spark?
Oh yeah. So
Sorry,
the
Ingram,
Ingram
Ingram
Spark,
Spark.
yeah,
Yeah.
Ingram Spark, which is
Ingram Spark. Sorry.
publisher. Um, I used them for a book we did for our church. It's a songbook that we produced our own songbook, basically hymn book,
Oh,
which is so cool. And I made the cover and
Oh,
got it
neat.
printed in a hardcover for it's beautiful. It has 100 songs in it, and that's all we sing are these 100 songs. So we learn them. It's something churches should do. It's amazing.
I love
Anyway, that using Ingram Spark, I couldn't stand working with them. It was so awkward. It was so complicated. The product was, average. I wasn't excited about the product. So I chose to do Amazon KDP because I wanted my books in Kindle Unlimited. That's where the readers are, and that's where the what I would say that's where the money is. Selling paperbacks, is really hard to do these days. Selling Kindle Unlimited is very tempting because it feels free, right? You got your subscription, and you're like, I'll try that book. I do it all the time. I'll try that guy. And if I don't like it, I dump out at 50 pages or something and never read them again. And he made 10 cents on my 50 pages, and that's great. And so my goal was I want to be in Kindle Unlimited, so I'm going with KDP. When you're in KDP, you can do paperback only, hardcover, you Kindle, and then you can choose to be in Kindle Unlimited. Um, I think authors with series that are not in Kindle Unlimited are missing out. Unless you have a very successful paperback, that doesn't even matter, paperback. You would have to have a very successful iBooks or Kobo or Google Books sales, like really good, in order to not be in Kindle Unlimited, in my view, because every month when KDP gives me my chart of sales, paperbacks is always at the hardcover bottom, paperbacks, Kindle purchases, and then Kindle Unlimited is the vast majority. I would say 52% of my entire income for all 6 books. And so if I didn't have that, I don't know what would happen in terms of the sales, the readers, the quantity of readers, that sort of thing. So I don't know if that answers the question, but my advice is for any independent authors, just for now, just KDP, get that book in. In fact, you could go Kindle Unlimited with an ebook and not even worry about a paperback. So you're not worrying about spine, extra cost for spine and back a book and proofs and all that kind of stuff. Just do an ebook with a nice cover and put it in Kindle Unlimited and, sell it, throw some ads at it and see what happens.
Mom, any other questions regarding that stuff? Okay. So you guys say a lot of words. I'm like, Kobo, do like I have no idea what you're talking about. So I was getting a little like, ah.
But You're
Uh,
making you're making my point though, Jill, because not a lot of people know what Kobo is, but a
mhm.
lot of people are selling, a lot of authors are selling their books on Kobo. Um, and that makes you to be in Kindle Unlimited, you have to be exclusive to only Amazon. And
Oh.
you can't be in iBooks, you can't be in Google Books, you can't be in Nook, you can't be in Kobo, all these other places because you're exclusive with Amazon Kindle Limited, and that is a business decision.
It is.
But I have really yet to find an indie author who's selling more through those other outlets than they would be on Kindle Unlimited.
We should specify that that is only for ebook. So you
Yes.
could still
Ebook,
sell paperback and hardcover in other places.
yeah, exactly. Only exclusive for ebook. Exactly. You can sell your paperback all over the place. Yep.
Okay, so that brings me to this question.
I'm gonna change this.
Obviously, you don't have to tell us. Oh, he gone.
Sorry, I was getting blinded.
No, you're fine.
Okay.
Um,
My,
Obviously, don't tell us like numbers and stuff. I know you wouldn't, but like obviously one of your series does better than the other.
yep.
Like unless it's just the same, but I doubt it. So how tempting is it for you to jump ship and just stick to one genre? If let's say the Space Warfare Group series does better than Hank, how do you stay in both lanes with both passions in both genres and not just say, okay, people obviously don't want this, they want this. How do
Yeah.
you keep going?
Okay, so I haven't had they don't want this yet. Well, that's not true. So I wrote some short story, not short stories, they were like serial episodic small books, which Jill, I think you have some, the
They're
Mission.
so good.
They're fun. Nobody wanted them. When I was putting it out there for all my author
Still
friends,
do.
I'm like, what do you guys think of these? And everybody was like, these are amazing. I want them. I published them and sold like four. It just nobody
Mm.
wanted them. So in that sense, there was that experience of nobody wants that. With the Space Warfare Group, by the second book, there was enough people who wanted the books that I knew I was in it. I couldn't just let it go because I was getting emails. When's the third one coming? When's the next one? And so then writing Hank, same thing. It's actually worse. People are like, I'm waiting every ad. I'm waiting, when is it coming out? So that drives me on both. I know that there's readers for both. There's interest in both. Space Warfare Group sells, 10 times what Hank sells right now. But Space Warfare Group also has four big, three full size and one decent sized novella that you can get. And they're all, 120,000 words, big books, full size books. Whereas Hank, there's just one. So that's why I want to. I think the long term goal is take Space Warfare Group about 10 books and try to end that series and then focus on Hank, and then maybe go into that political thriller series I was talking about.
That's exciting.
Mhm.
I never want Space Warfare Group to end, so he's like, enough with that 10.
Yeah.
Are you
I
going to tell your space story, Jill, about being the leader?
Oh
Oh,
yeah. So sometimes you want to connect with your readers, but Keller may be like, I wish I had not connected with Jill because I kind of like imagination wise wrote myself into his story. And I was like, I'm going to be pink leader. There is no leaders. There are no leaders. There are no color coded leaders. And then other girls who hadn't read it were like, I want to be yellow leader. And so, like, there is no leader.
because the team, the Space Warfare Group is special forces, a group of special forces soldiers in space. So think like Navy SEALs in space.
Mm.
Every time they go out on missions, they get different code names for the team. So in the first book, they're the black team. In another one, they're like, whatever, the record team and these different things. So the leader, Mac, is always the, whatever team leader. So he's black leader in the first one. And yeah, there is no red leader. Well, that's not true. In the mission brief, there's black leader, red leader, green leader. Um,
And
but,
pink leader.
and pink leader. That might show up some point. So you'll have to be,
Listen, it would be the highlight of my life. I'm telling you guys, you've got to read these books. Well, and that's the other thing is I know a lot of people who watch this show, like some of them are just getting started. So this may not be in theme with two genres, but as someone who's because you have great success and your social media, I know you hate it sometimes, but I think you do well on Instagram. Which I want to touch on that too. How do you brand with both genres? But first, can you just encourage everybody about how to get to this point? Because I know sometimes authors feel very defeated when they're not traditionally published and they're self-publishing books and it just feels like it's not going anywhere. Can you just encourage about staying the course?
yeah. I mean, first of all, we have to write because we love it. You can't write in order to get people to read it. I mean, we all want people to read our books, but that's not why you write. You've got to write because you want to tell stories. And then if you want people to read your books, you got to run it like a business. So you have to have, so my encouragement to everybody is write, 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 enjoy writing, and don't worry about what people think and don't worry about the sales and stuff. If you want to see a broader readership, then you got to run it like a business, which means researching covers and researching how to promote and doing those things that fit with you and your brand or your genre and what you're doing, and make it a business. And most authors don't want to do business, which is really hard.
Mhm.
Uh, but yeah, never quit, never quit. Write the story to enjoy it and publish it, and 10 people read it. That's wonderful. That's a blessing to enjoy that.
I hope that really does encourage people because there are people who want your stories.
Yeah,
Um, so
yeah.
then talk about how you market with two different genres. So Charles Hack, you are the sci-fi guy, but you also write these clean mystery, novels. So how do you
Yeah.
brand yourself?
Yeah, and the mysteries, the Hank books I classify them as Christian mystery. Um, there's enough um, there's enough Christian elements and even some scripture in there that I just call them Christian fiction at this point. I tried to sneak them in as like, mystery and just general mystery kind of stuff, but I think I want them to be I
Mhm.
want to target that Christian readership. Okay, so the marketing thing, all of this is again, it's a decision that has to be made early on. And I had been hearing everybody talk about if you're going to do another series, you need a different pen name, you need something different, your Amazon algorithm, all these things are going to be ruined. And I think there's a lot of truth to that. Trying to, on Instagram, for example, my followers on Instagram were into the space warfare group and the sci-fi stuff. All of a sudden I'm promoting this small town sheriff mystery. Couldn't be any different.
Mhm.
Um, they're not interested in that, and that has had some negative effects. But then I'm starting to gain mystery people who are following as well. And so what I've been trying to do actually is kind of what Jill said at the very beginning is I want readers who want to read anything that I write because they know what they're going to get and they don't care what genre it is. They just want to try. They're like, oh, great, Charles is writing this. Let's get it. Um, and so marketing it, um, the Instagram and the Facebook and the website are all both, and it's hard because if I'm like right now, I'm promoting three things for November I've got coming out. One is Hank 2, so I'm doing all that, right? And the music and the colors, the fonts, the pictures, it all feels like small town sheriff. And then I'm also releasing the third Space Warfare Group audiobook, or it'd be the fourth
Mhm.
audiobook. So I've got to do that. So now you're getting that in your feed. And then I'm a part of an anthology that is a Kickstarter anthology with 22 other authors that are
Wow.
sci-fi and fantasy. And it is a world-class, incredible book, a collector's item. I've never seen anything like it. I'm so thankful to be included in it. And I'm promoting that as well. So in my Facebook and my Instagram and my X feed, it's all over the map what you're getting. And so what I have to do, because I made the decision to just be Charles Hack and everything is tied to Charles Hack, is to just promote it all the time. And then those that follow me, they're following me, not necessarily like I want to know only about the sci-fi. They just, if you don't like the mystery, you suffer through that. If you don't like the sci-fi, you suffer through that. But you're going to get all that I send to you. So the email list, literally, hey, here's what's coming out with Hank, and here's what's coming out with Space Warfare Group, and here's the anthology, and it's all over the map.
Mhm.
I don't know that I would recommend that necessarily for everybody. I might have, if I had it to do over again, I might have done separate um, Instagrams for each series and separate email lists for each series. Maybe. The problem is if I do a third and a fourth series or genre, then how many Instagrams do you need? So I probably would have in the end merged them anyway. So I don't know. That's going to be different for everybody, but it's very complicated on the um, so what I would call the free marketing promotional stuff. The paid marketing is easier.
Mhm.
Okay, so for I'm glad you don't have 5 Instagrams, by the way.
I have two.
Yeah.
For those who are writing in a certain genre and then they have this other genre that is, tickling their fancy, is there a right time? I know you mentioned the 3 books thing. Do you feel like people should have a trilogy before they start the second genre, or go ahead and dive into both the way you've done it?
Yeah, I thought about this question quite a bit because that is tough and it's going to depend on everybody. I do think at this point I would recommend having three in your first, especially if that series is going to be big and is going. You want to take it further. Have three, even if it's a novella or something, um, before trying to get that other series started. Now you might write the second genre and have it behind the scenes for a little bit. I don't do that personally because I don't books that are on my computer don't sell. Only books on Amazon sell. So I'm like, I have no unpublished books. I know people who have multiple books sitting waiting to publish. I'm like, get that book out there.
Right.
Um, uh, so I would recommend probably having two with a novella or three before, if you really want it to be a business. If you don't care, or if you're just somebody who writes standalones, it doesn't matter. If you're writing standalones, every book's different, right? Um, yeah.
So I think because it's already 11:48, do you want to open up to questions,
Sure.
Mom?
Yeah. If you want to pop on, do if you are in Writer's Chat jail, which I don't really think anybody is, but if you are, please let us know so that we can let you on. Leslie had a question about marketing the books too, and she asked about if you do book signings, speak at places, and how do you, oh, this is interesting. How do you compete with the new AI audiobook app? So that's actually then two different topics there. So about audiobooks, how you do your audiobook process.
Uh,
So do you want to handle while people are popping on, and again, please pop on if you're able to.
let's talk about the audiobook first, and then you.
Okay, go ahead. Sure.
Okay, so nobody likes the Audible virtual voice. I've yet to find everybody that has published it regrets it because they get like 2 stars and the comments are always,
Uh-oh.
I hate it. Like I've researched it. I've talked to a bunch of authors. People are pulling them down and it seems to be a failed thing that'll go away. I think if it was like a nonfiction book, it might go better because you're looking for less of the real life or personality stuff in there. But anyway, so I hired a narrator, and he reads the books and produces them and everything, and I'm happy to talk about that. It's an amazing process, but um, I don't think there's any real competition with the virtual voice because nobody wants it. It is a way to get your book up on Audible, but people don't want to listen to them, so I advise against it. In that. So, what was the first part of that question?
Book signings, speaking at places, is that part of what you do to get readership, or are you mainly focused on like Instagram and ads and that kind of thing?
Yeah, I do book signings locally. I've yet to ever be invited anywhere because being an indie author, I don't have the advantage of a publisher saying like, "Hey, we're going to set you up with book signing in Sacramento or something." So, so I have to do all that myself, and so I do book signings locally in my town, and they've gone really well. I mean, I'll sell 40 books.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah,
That's
they go.
actually really good. That's
It
very
is. It's
good.
been
Yeah.
amazing. And I've been really encouraged by that. And when I do that, I bring, so I just did this last Christmas. I haven't done one since last Christmas. Um, it's hard. I got to bring all my own books, right? The bookstore doesn't bring them. I got to buy
Mhm.
them and bring them. It's expensive. You're possibly at risk of having a bunch of books that didn't sell. Um, and I'll bring both sets of books, and I have like posters for both series and stacks for both series, and like stickers and bookmarks for both series, so that
Mhm.
if it's a sci-fi person, I'm trying constantly to gauge like interest, and I'll just ask people, like they might look at it and like, oh, do you read mystery, or oh, do you like sci-fi, or hey, you ever watch Star Wars, things like that, to
Mhm.
try to find the conversation. But those are fun. I love them. I also do a lot of podcasts whenever I can
Okay.
with other authors and bookstagrammer types and podcast book reviewers. I think it's really helpful for some exposure as well. Love doing all those things on top of the others.
All right. We do invite you to put it's your website. Is it charleshack.com? Okay,
Yep.
we'll just put it in the chat and then um so people can find you. All right. Any other questions?
Oh, Norma, yeah. Hate virtual voice reading, especially
Mm.
police procedure story. Yeah.
I have a couple questions.
Okay.
First, I wrote them down so I get them right. How do you balance your time with all things writing with your time in the Word of God as a pastor?
Very good.
Oh, wonderful question. Okay, so I have to have a switch that I flip between the two. I get up early. This is the advantage of being a full-time pastor, is my mornings are devoted to writing. So I'll get up in the morning and I'll do my writing, and then I get ready and head into the office, and then I do my personal reading and study and everything in the office. So I have, except for the weekends. So I will have separate spaces for that, separate times. I'm very regimented. That's a part of my personality, is, every morning's the same. Um, and when I have a rule that if I'm preaching on Sunday or there's an extra event, we just had a conference at our church with Saturday, so there's some additional teaching to do. If I'm behind on my sermon prep and stuff, writing goes to the side. Writing is always the first thing to go. So if I'm looking at like, ooh, can I get this done? Have the material to our secretary in time, and be not stressed on Saturday trying to finish. Uh, I need to get up this morning and work on the sermon rather than on my writing. So that balance I've done well at, and partly because I've spent my whole adult life either doing school with a family and working, or ministry with school and working, or ministry with writing, and so because I got my master's in theology, with a family, working as an engineer and in the church. So, you have to be uber super regimented and have like this 1 hour of block of time is for this, and that's all it can have. And then you turn that switch off and go do the next thing. I mean,
Wow.
it's kind of funny, as our church and my engineering business that I used to be a part of were in the same building. And I had an office in the engineering side, and I had a office in the church. And it's a long story how we ended up there, but I would have like a meeting with a contractor on the phone where they're yelling at me about a change order and this problem. And then I'm like, oh, 10:30, I got a marriage counseling appointment, so I'll go to the other office. And you have to, like, in that 40 step walk to the other building, to switch gears and go from like, okay, forget about that contractor, now think about how to help this couple. So yeah, maybe that's something that God's given me as a gift to manage that, but it's hard.
All right, follow-up question to that. Do you find that writing and reading fiction takes away from or adds to your life and work as a Christian, and why?
I don't think anybody's ever asked me that question. I love that. So I think there are times when it's negative if I'm reading a book that is, worldly with language and junk in it, has a negative effect. And so, I have to just deny the desire to read that story or that author and say no because it's negative. It's always that. Um, I've noticed that the more I write, that it's helped me in storytelling, in sermons, and not that I am telling a story, but it helps with like putting more emphasis on the important parts by using language and language techniques maybe to communicate the gospel in a more interesting way, maybe. At least that's how how it feels to me from before I was writing full time. Um, and then as far as like one of the most interesting things is that my love for reading and writing has built relationships with people in the church that are lovers of books and story and readers. So I have like my editing team are all ladies at my church, which is
Oh,
amazing.
that's great.
It's
I love
amazing.
it.
And they are so excited and helpful, and they're super talented. My main editor now, she did some sort of editing as her career. I don't know the full extent of that, but she was an editor and she's super, super smart with all that, and they're really helpful. And then the other ladies do like proofreading, and sometimes someone will read them like 2 times in a week, trying to find stuff for me. And
Oh,
that just built
great.
relationships, especially with these older ladies that do the proofreading, that they're just so kind, and it's built these wonderful relationships that we wouldn't have necessarily without the books.
Mhm.
Interesting. Thanks.
Yeah, great question.
I wanted to talk a little bit about the series because you talked about the difference between writing like the space stories and then the mysteries. And I write in multiple genres too, but mine are still connected that if you're going to do multiple genres, I think that's one thing to look at too. If you're writing contemporary romance and historical romance and history, a lot of people like all of that. So, I've been able to never really had a problem with more than one Instagram account or more than one website or different names. And it's like, and I just wasn't going to do it. Like, it was just like, no, this is who I am. This is what I'm writing. These are the books God's giving me to write. So, here we go. But if you're wanting to write in multiple genres, you do have to realize those challenges of how different are the genres, or are they genres that sort of ebb and
Yeah.
flow within each other? And then the other thing was, this is going way back to the beginning of the interview with characters, and how they kind of sometimes do their own thing. And I've had that issue, as Jill can tell you, with characters
Yeah.
who whatever. I guess I'm at. I've got 2 characters in timeout right now.
My mom will be like, my character's doing this thing. And I'm like, Mom, you're doing it. She's like, it's not. It's the characters.
No, it's not.
Uh,
But so I've heard about people, saying, "Oh, this character took over this story. This character's doing this character's doing that," and had these kinds of issues. But I think you're the first person that I've ever heard saying, "Okay, this character was a side character, but now he's the main character in a completely different genre." That he took over so much that he just became his own, but in a whole different realm, which I just think is so fascinating and so fun, that you not only just took him to make his own stories, but you took him in just a whole different place, like
yeah.
maybe something completely different. That's
You know,
cool.
people ask the question a lot, and I'm sure any writer gets it, is, how did you come up with this character? Or, why this character? And a lot of times I tell them, like, well, that's who they are. I I don't know. I mean, for example, Hank Lin is half Chinese. His dad was Chinese, Silicon Valley, has a bunch of money, has a big
Mhm.
estate at Tahoe. Um, and I think what is I was trying to decide, like, okay, I need a guy. He gets out of the army. He's on like convalescent leave from the army because he's got an injury from a IED attack in Syria or wherever it was, and he's kind of like down on his luck, post-traumatic stress. Friends died. He's just starting over. His dad has who, and I was trying to think like, how does he become essentially independently wealthy enough
Mm.
to then be, tooling around Tahoe as an amateur detective solving mysteries, right? That's how I had to,
Yeah,
he's going to be
yeah.
Miss Marple. How is he surviving as Miss Marple? And so I started thinking, well, his dad was a big Silicon Valley guy and has this house in Tahoe, and then obviously his dad dies and leaves him the house and the estate. That's the opening
Yep.
scene of this opens in a funeral. If you
Wow.
It's so good, guys. You got to read it.
opens in a funeral. Hank is back. His dad has died. They're doing the funeral. And so I'm thinking like, okay, well, what does Hank's dad look like, right? I still don't know who Hank is other than a name and his kind of his story. And I realized like, oh, well, his dad is obviously this Chinese immigrant, Silicon Valley guy who did all these things, but he was married to this German white woman who died when Hank was like, 17 or something. And and so then I'm like, oh well, obviously Hank, I didn't know this, but Hank is half Chinese. And that process of like I remember driving, around town with my wife and talking about this guy Hank, and like he actually exists. And what's interesting is the
It
name I love.
exists.
Yeah. And so I'm like, I don't know, just Hank came and introduced himself to me one day, and
Oh.
that's who he is, and I just love him.
That
Such
makes me think of A Christmas Carol. What's it called, Mom? The new Scrooge with the guy who plays Matthew from Downton.
Oh, the man who invented Christmas.
Yes. If you
Yes.
guys haven't seen that, it's amazing. And because I don't understand this, right? I'm not a writer, but like he's trying to come up with Scrooge and like the guy like is just in the
yeah,
room with him. Or
yeah,
like when he says the name, it's so good. So it really describes what you guys describe about your characters being
yeah.
real. But it is funny when you guys talk about him, like their names are a thing.
Oh, and I just sit and think about him, and you have conversations. It is weird, but only writers I think really understand. And I like characters, so I have unique attributes to my main characters, and then I always love to have the sort of oddball side character, of course, and then you
Yeah.
got to have the stable best friend. It just is natural. I
Yeah.
look at my life and I'm like, that guy's crazy, love him. This guy's super stable, depend on him, and so those characters all enter into the stories.
And they're good. They're such good characters. You guys have got I know I said that like 10 times, but read his books. They're so good.
Well, and I think, and I don't know that we said this, Jill has become a very avid reader in the last few years, especially with, Christian fiction. But it's been historicals and it's been contemporary romances and also these aren't books that are even normally in her wheelhouse at all. And
Yeah,
then all of a sudden she's talking about Charles Hack in these books. I'm like, who are you? Where's my daughter? I mean, she just really, really
yeah,
went
It's
crazy about
true.
them. So it's, that's kind of fun too, where you can find readers that are just not your typical reader who can be such cheerleaders for
yeah.
you, which Jill has been. I mean,
I actually want to mention that was something that I thought, um, everybody who encounters this is in my sci-fi book with my sci-fi books, there are a lot of people who tell me I'm not interested in sci-fi, I'm not going to read it. And they'll say, "Hey, I love mysteries. I can't wait for the mystery." And they'll read the mystery and they'll say, "Oh, I love that. Where's the next book?" And I'll say, "You should try the first Space Warfare Group book because if you like what I did in Deceitful Above All Things, the Hank book, you're likely to like what I'm doing in the Space Warfare Group, regardless of the setting. It's
right.
it's the same, and I think you all writers are going to be the same way as your personality, how you write, the way you put stories together. That's going to be there, and it's really difficult when you're talking to somebody you've known for a long time, and they say, especially some of this is classic for the older ladies. They'll say, I'm just not going to read that. I was okay. Have you ever watched Star Trek? Or, well, yeah, I loved Star Trek. I'm like, okay. So so you might like
Right.
it. Just try it. And I think that's exactly the conversation I had with Jill through Instagram was, I think it was something like, where's the next Hank book? And I said, well, you should try these. You might like Mac and the team. And boy, she was like, I don't know. But then sure enough, it's about characters, it's about life, it's about, real stuff. So I would encourage all authors who face that uh, to just encourage people to say, well, if you like my other book, you're likely to like this as well. It's
Yeah. Yeah. And now Jill is pink leader. So, I mean, you just never know.
You never know. Pink leader. Well, and that's the other thing is like when you find when your readers love you, like I have Charles's like this is my first copy. Like he said, this is the first artwork, but I have his hardcover books that have like the new. I will buy everything because you fall in love with the reader. And so you're not going to be able your readers are not going to do that unless you're actively if you're just doing like graphics, they don't get to know you. They don't get to know like the safety behind the book, if that makes sense. And um as a reader, like I want to trust the authors that I read, especially because I am very exclusive. Like I don't want to read trash. So I know that anything that Charles comes out with, I can trust it, right? And my kids can read it, and Jacob can read it, and my mom can read it, and I can tell everyone to read it, and I'm not worried about anything that's in it. And so that's so huge based on your platform and what you're doing on there. So
yeah, I'd
that's
like to add to that as well, Jill. You've kind of challenged me on that topic before. And there are certain things like trends in the TikTok and Instagram world that I'm just not going to participate in. There's things that there's like, it's not me. And I'm not going to do it to get sales or followers, right? But here's what I've learned is if I look at my favorite authors, I know a lot about the person.
Mhm.
I read their articles, I read their website, I listen to their interviews. In some cases, talk to them online. I love it when I've had authors that I've read for years who I've connected to on Facebook, and then every so often one will like comment on a picture or something, and I run in and I, hold the phone to my wife. I'm like, look, Mark Green just said congratulations. Can you believe it? And that like it's a relationship with the author and their story. And I can't think of an author, like I'm trying to think of a book or a series that I love that I couldn't tell you a bunch of facts or even say like, oh yeah, I talked to that author at this point, or I saw, 50 interviews. And I think for authors, in order for us to grow readership, it is to be out there and to make sure they know who you are and a little bit about your life. You don't have to be, super transparent about everything, but if we're not giving the reader something of us in our lives, it's I don't know. I think it really has a damaging effect these days.
it does. Because again, that's the first thing I do when I read a book that I don't know the author. I go to their social media. And if they don't have much, I'm sad.
There was an author that I love, still love him. His name is Jack DeBrule, and he wrote some of his own books, but he writes in the Clive Cussler universe as one of the co-authors, and now writes one of the main series. And for forever, I'd say 20 years, I've tried to find social media websites. He didn't even have a website.
Mm.
All you get is like the penguin Random House photo and a list of his books. There's nothing to it. Well, I had a chance to interview him a couple months ago. It was just a crazy random set of circumstances that led to me being invited because am a fan to interview Jack. And my first question was, how have you survived as an author without a website, social media, or anything? And his answer was hilarious, and it was totally predictable. But that was I wanted him to know, like, hey, we as your readers want to know you and hear from you and see you, and so please do that.
What was
Uh,
his answer? You have to tell us.
uh, it was a whole thing about like, oh, it's not me, and oh, I'd rather just work on my books, and oh, it's just so hard for me, and I was like, who's it not hard for?
Exactly. Exactly.
Who is it not hard for? Like some people have more gregarious personalities. Like Jill can start a new Instagram bookstagram page and get a couple thousand followers because they're like, I want to, they're following Jill,
True.
right? And in a lot of ways, as authors, it's the same thing. And so, yeah, he really gave me nothing, and he wasn't going to change it. So.
There you go. All right. Well, this has been really great. It is getting a little bit long, so we need to wrap things up. I'm sorry to say, because this is so fun. But please stay for the after party, Charles, as long as you're able to, and we can chat more there. Next week, we are going to do another writer's journey episode, but this one's a little bit different because it's the journey of writer's chat itself. So
Aw.
as some of you know, discovered kind of serendipitously that we're a little bit older than we thought we were, that we're actually 10 years old. And so this is a good time to just talk about Writers Chat. And so we want you all come on. It'll be an open mic episode just to talk about Writers Chat. But the best thing is we've got two people joining us. Jeannie Wise and Bethany Jett will be here, the other co-founders of Writers Chat all those many years ago when we didn't have a clue what we were doing. And so they're going to be with us too, unless, something comes up, but they plan on being here. So it'd be great to have them back with us. If you're watching the replay, thank you for doing that. We're so glad that you do. We do invite you to join our Writers Chat Facebook group and check out our Writers Chat Facebook page, and of course our Writers Chat YouTube channel, where you can see all of our episodes. And there's over 300, so that's really cool. All kinds of topics, lots of things that we've covered as far as the writing life is concerned. If you want to join us live, we record on Tuesday mornings, almost every Tuesday morning at 11 o'clock Eastern, 10 o'clock Central. Find your time zone. I will say that coming up, we will not be meeting over the week of Thanksgiving, the week of Christmas, and the week of New Year. So I say almost every Tuesday, but we've got those exceptions are coming up in December or November, December. So until next week, everybody, we'll see you then, and happy writing.